What if everything you believed to be unbreakable collapsed in minutes? What if the most secure nation in the Middle East, protected by walls of steel, towers of technology, and decades of dominance, was suddenly left exposed? Not by brute force, but by something far more dangerous: innovation. This is not just a story about missiles or military might. This is a wake-up call to the world, a powerful reminder that in a time where battles are fought both in the skies and in cyberspace, no fortress is impenetrable and no empire is untouchable. Today you'll hear about a moment that stunned global powers, shattered assumptions, and shifted the balance of fear. But this speech is more than analysis. It's a journey into the heart of a new kind of warfare, a new kind of courage, and a new kind of world. Stay with me to the end, not just to understand what happened, but to grasp why it matters to every one of us. Because in this unfolding chaos lies a truth that could shape the future of every nation and every soul daring to rise in uncertain times. Let's begin. The element of surprise was Iran's greatest weapon in this unprecedented assault. In warfare, surprise is not just about timing. It is about catching your opponent in a moment of certainty when they believe they are untouchable. Israel, long relying on a robust intelligence network and technological superiority, had grown confident in its ability to anticipate and neutralize threats before they could materialize. But Iran flipped the script. Instead of moving visibly through known channels or escalating through rhetoric, it operated in silence, in digital shadows, and in the blind spots of Israel's extensive surveillance infrastructure. The attack began with decoys, harmless blips that resembled standard drone activity along Israel's borders. These initial movements were dismissed by many radar systems, having been conditioned to expect threats from certain known vectors. But while Israel was watching the skies, Iran was burrowing beneath them, digitally and strategically. This misdirection allowed Iran to exploit a critical window of confusion. The timing was exact, synchronized across multiple domains: air, cyberspace, and psychological. Within moments, electronic warfare tactics were deployed to jam Israeli communications, blind surveillance drones, and disrupt real-time data transfer between command centers. Key defense hubs experienced delays in command decisions because communication lines were flooded or disabled altogether. The fog of war, often metaphorical, became a real and present force. While decision-makers scrambled to regain clarity, waves of drones and low-trajectory missiles were already on their way, slipping past Israel's early warning systems. This wasn't just a physical breach, it was a breakdown of Israel's operational rhythm. Its radar towers, anti-air systems, and command units were all structured around anticipation and rapid response, but only if the threat behaved according to established patterns. Iran's innovation came from not behaving like a traditional enemy. It didn't scream war, it whispered it, until the moment of impact. By the time Israel understood the scale of the operation, critical infrastructure had already been hit. Air bases, radar installations, and communication relays were crippled in minutes. Even the Iron Dome, built to be the impenetrable shield of the nation, couldn't fire fast enough to counter the multifaceted, synchronized assault. The suddenness of the strike and the cunning with which it was delivered revealed not only a new kind of warfare, but exposed a deep vulnerability in systems thought to be airtight. Cyber warfare and electronic disruption played a pivotal role in Iran's strategy, acting as the invisible hand that dismantled Israel's defenses before a single projectile was launched. The assault began not with missiles, but with algorithms. Precise, calculated lines of code designed to infiltrate and paralyze. Iran targeted Israel's digital infrastructure with a wave of sophisticated cyber attacks, zeroing in on command centers, air defense control systems, and communication networks. These attacks were not merely aimed at disrupting daily operations, but at severing the neural connections of Israel's military response system. The first stage involved disabling early warning systems that detect incoming aerial threats. Through malicious code embedded in network vulnerabilities, Iranian cyber units were able to delay radar alerts by crucial seconds. Those few seconds proved devastating when defending against fast-moving drones and missiles. Military intelligence feeds were scrambled, screens went blank, and decision-makers at the highest levels found themselves in a sudden blackout, cut off from battlefield data, satellite visuals, and real-time updates. Simultaneously, Iran's electronic warfare divisions deployed signal jamming techniques to disrupt radio frequencies used by Israeli defense personnel. Drones flying surveillance missions lost connection midair. Tanks and ground units experienced delays in receiving orders. Fighter jets on standby faced system errors and reprogramming loops delaying their ability to scramble. The result was chaos masked as silence, a disabling of systems that rendered even the most advanced machinery useless. Iran didn't just infiltrate the systems, it manipulated them. Fake alerts were planted to send defense units to the wrong locations. Internal databases were flooded with false positives, creating doubt in the reliability of intelligence. Military officials hesitated, second-guessed, and in many cases acted too late. The trust in their own technology, something Israel had always considered a strength, became a liability under the weight of uncertainty. These cyber tactics didn't require visible movement, tanks on borders, or jets in the sky. They were launched from keyboards across the world, exploiting digital vulnerabilities that had long gone unnoticed. And because they left no immediate trace, Israel's initial response was hindered by confusion rather than confrontation. The physical attacks that followed were simply the final blow to an already compromised system. By attacking the nervous system of Israel's military infrastructure, Iran had already won half the war before the first explosion echoed. The saturation tactic employed by Iran was a masterstroke of modern asymmetrical warfare. It was not just about launching more missiles or drones. It was about overwhelming Israel's multi-layered defense systems in a way that rendered them functionally useless. The Iron Dome, once regarded as one of the most advanced missile interception systems in the world, was designed to target and eliminate a specific number of threats simultaneously, but Iran's tactic was to go beyond that limit, to flood the sky with such an intense barrage of different aerial threats that the Iron Dome would be forced to make impossible choices. Iran launched hundreds of drones and low-flying missiles in tightly coordinated waves. Many of these drones flew at low altitudes, avoiding radar detection, while others were used as decoys to bait out interceptor missiles. This created a paradox for Israel's defense systems. Fire too early and waste valuable ammunition on decoys, or fire too late and risk allowing real threats to strike critical targets. In a matter of minutes, the system was saturated beyond capacity. Each interceptor launched had to be paired with a specific target, but the number of incoming objects far outstripped the dome's processing and responsibility. Complicating matters further, the incoming projectiles were not uniform. Some drones carried high explosive payloads aimed at military installations, while others were equipped with electronic jammers or even just scrap metal designed to confuse radar. The diversity of threats meant Israeli operators had to constantly adapt their targeting decisions, a nearly impossible task under such time pressure. The Iron Dome depended on algorithms to prioritize which threats posed the greatest risk, became overwhelmed by the volume and irregularity of the targets. Iran's goal was not just to break through, but to paralyze. By attacking at scale and with variety, They ensured that even if only a small percentage of their weapons made it through, the damage would still be significant. And it was. Key infrastructure, command centers, and air bases were struck. Civilians witnessed the sky light up with trails of fire, and for the first time in years, the confidence that Israel's skies were impenetrable was shattered. The psychological impact of seeing such a trusted system fail in real time added to the sense of vulnerability and chaos, making the saturation tactic not just a military success, but a blow to the national psyche. Psychological warfare was a crucial and deliberate layer of Iran's operation, designed to magnify fear, confusion, and public unrest, even before and during the physical assault. Iran understood that the true strength of a nation is not just its weapons, but the morale of its people. And so long before the missiles were launched, a campaign of psychological disruption was already in motion. Through coordinated cyber propaganda, deep fake videos, social media manipulation, and targeted misinformation, Iran infiltrated Israel's digital and emotional landscape. Fake emergency alerts were circulated, edited videos showing chaos and destruction were uploaded, and social platforms were flooded with conflicting reports to confuse both civilians and military personnel alike. People didn't know what was real anymore. Messages claimed air raid shelters were compromised. Others warned of chemical attacks or insider sabotage. With trust in official communication channels already strained by cyber disruptions, even false rumors began to take hold. Families panicked, emergency hotlines were jammed, and widespread anxiety gripped cities as people rushed to supermarkets, gas stations, and shelters in sheer desperation. The fear was real, even when some threats were not, because perception in war can be more powerful than reality. At the same time, Iran's state-backed media and online networks broadcasted confident, victorious messages in real time. They displayed images of missiles being prepared, commanders giving final orders, and celebratory footage that claimed massive damage inside Israel. These videos were not necessarily accurate, but they served their purpose to make the Israeli public believe that defeat was inevitable, that their defenses had already crumbled, and that resistance. This kind of psychological attack does more than cause temporary panic. It fractures trust between the people and the state, between soldiers and their orders, and between belief and reality. Even within the military, morale took a heavy hit. When radar screens failed and command lines went silent, young soldiers were left with uncertainty. Doubt crept in. Was this a localized glitch or a full-scale breach? Were reinforcements coming, or were they alone? That doubt, that hesitation, was exactly what Iran intended. The mental battlefield was just as important as the physical one, and Iran fought there first, weakening Israel's resolve by planting seeds of fear. They didn't just aim to break the body of the nation, they wanted to fracture its spirit. The sheer speed and scale of Iran's strike left the international community in a state of shock and strategic paralysis. For years, Israel had been viewed as a regional fortress, backed by unwavering American support and equipped with the most advanced military and technological capabilities in the Middle East. But when Iran executed its multi-layer attack, it did so with a level of coordination and technological finesse that few, if any, global powers anticipated. The reaction from world capitals was not immediate condemnation or counteraction. It was stunned silence. Intelligence agencies in Washington, London, and Paris were caught off guard, left scrambling for answers in real time as Israel's defenses visibly collapsed on live broadcasts and open source feeds. This moment wasn't just a military event, it was a geopolitical earthquake. For the first time in decades, a major U.S. ally was struck at its core without an immediate and decisive response from the West. Diplomatic channels lit up, but they didn't lead to action. They led to emergency meetings, closed-door consultations, and contradictory statements. While international leaders expressed concern and support, there was a noticeable absence of immediate military coordination. Part of this hesitation is due to the nature of the attack itself. It wasn't traditional warfare. There were no tanks crossing borders, no invasion forces to repel. It was digital, aerial, and psychological, designed to blur the lines of conventional response protocols. Iran's message to the world was as clear as it was chilling. We can strike, we can surprise, and we are not afraid. And that message echoed far beyond Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. Other regional powers, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, even NATO members, were forced to reevaluate their own vulnerabilities. If Israel could fall victim to such a rapid and effective assault, what did that say about the preparedness of others? The paralysis was also strategic. Any hasty military retaliation risked igniting a wider conflict in a region already on edge. But doing nothing risked emboldening Iran and undermining deterrence altogether. This indecision, this frozen moment in time, served Iran's goals perfectly. While governments debated, Iran gained psychological ground. It had managed to not only outmaneuver a powerful military opponent, but to hold the world in suspense. This was not just an attack on Israel, it was a demonstration to the globe that a new kind of warfare had arrived, one that could redefine the rules of engagement and reorder the balance of power without a single soldier crossing a border. Iran's strike went beyond military objectives. It was a symbolic act aimed at reshaping the narrative of power in the Middle East. The attack wasn't just a demonstration of force, it was a bold declaration of strategic intent. Every element of the operation, from cyber infiltration to aerial saturation, was calibrated to send a message not just to Israel, but to the entire region and the world. Iran wanted it known that it no longer played defense, that it had evolved from a reactive actor into an initiator of calculated disruption. By striking deep into Israeli territory and disabling its iconic defense systems in minutes, Iran dismantled the illusion of invincibility that had long surrounded its adversary. This wasn't about territorial gain or prolonged warfare. It was a statement etched in the sky with fire and precision that the era of unilateral dominance was over. In one sweeping maneuver, Iran shattered the strategic complacency that had defined much of Israel's military planning. It revealed that traditional deterrence based on superior technology and alliances could be rendered obsolete when confronted with innovation, unpredictability, and unwavering resolve. Iran redefined the battlefield by proving that modern warfare no longer requires tanks rolling across borders or naval blockades tightening over weeks. It can be swift, silent, and strategic, executed in hours, yet reverberating for years. The symbolic nature of the strike was reinforced by the targets selected. Key command centers, radar installations, and emblematic infrastructure weren't just military assets. They were national symbols of strength and pride. By hitting them with precision, Iran didn't just damage facilities. It bruised a national identity built around military superiority. In doing so, it fueled debates not only within Israel, but among its allies, raising difficult questions about preparedness, over-reliance on existing systems, and the complacency that can follow years of unchecked dominance. For Iran, the strike served as both retribution and revelation. Retribution for years of isolation, sanctions, and covert attacks. Revelation that it now possesses the capability and confidence to challenge the regional status quo openly. This act wasn't just meant to wound. It was meant to awaken. It carried a message far louder than the explosions themselves. That power no longer lies only in what you own or who supports you, but in how creatively, decisively, and courageously you wield it. when the world least expects it. What we've witnessed is more than a battle, it is a transformation, a shift in how wars are fought, how nations defend, and how the world perceives strength. Israel's defenses, once thought unshakable, were dismantled not just by missiles, but by strategy, surprise, and a new understanding of power. Iran's operation was not just a military act, it was a signal to every government, every military strategist, and every citizen that the future belongs not to the biggest, but to the boldest. This moment in history forces us all to reflect, not just on the vulnerabilities of nations, but on the price of complacency, the urgency of adaptation, and the need to constantly evolve. The battlefield has changed, and so must we, because in today's world, wars aren't only won by weapons, they're won by wit, by vision, by the courage to challenge the expected. What happened in minutes will echo for years. And whether you're a leader, a soldier, or simply someone trying to understand your place in this world, remember this: resilience begins in the mind, and the future favors those who prepare for the unimaginable. Thank you for giving your time, your attention, and your open mind to this journey. May you carry the lessons of courage, clarity, and conviction with you, wherever you stand and whatever you face. Stay aware, stay ready, and above all, stay strong. Good luck on your path forward, and may you always rise stronger from every challenge you face.